Now let me explain to you the magic. I get a call, probably 2 or 3 times a week from somebody from someplace across the country, and they'll say, I have a such and such trust. I have a revocable trust. I have an irrevocable trust. I have a life insurance trust. I have a special needs trust. I have a supplemental needs trust. I have a gun trust. I mean, they just list and list and list. And then they ask me this incredibly wonderful question. Is that okay? And my response to him is, well, my response in my mind, you know what my response in my mind is, but my response on the phone is, I don't know unless I read it. It's the words of the trust that mean everything. The title means nothing. I can't tell you how many hundreds of irrevocable trusts I have read. And I have examined literally thousands of trusts. And I can look at the words of the trust and I can tell you. Let me illustrate with a true story. My granddaughter's name is Lily. I'm at her house, and she comes into the kitchen and she grabs my index finger. Have you ever had your finger grabbed by your granddaughter? I reach into my pocket, I pull out the keys to my car, and I say, what else would you like? Then she pulled me outside the house to the back where the garage is, just a little garage. She takes me over into a corner, not very big at all, and there's, I guess, what would be the tool bench, but she's using it for something else. And there are paints, I think they're watercolors, and there's some butcher paper there. And I look at the butcher paper, and it's kind of a brown mess, you know what I mean? Lots and lots of different colors in there, but it's just a brown mess. And she says, what do you think, Grandpa? And I look at that, and I don't know what to say. Do I tell her it's a mess? Do I tell her, oh, it's wonderful? Do I lie to her? Do I tell her the truth? What do I do? So I looked around the garage, kind of thinking of something to say, because she's 7 years old. And I see over in the corner, not about 10 feet away from me, a bunch of trash bags and stuff. And behind one of the trash bags is a crumpled up, what looks like some kind of print of art. Of course, when I opened it up, it wasn't a Van Gogh. It was a, what do you call that? A Monet. I wanted to see if anybody knew. It was a Monet. It wasn't that particular Monet, by the way. I didn't figure out this one until a long time after this story. That's actually one of his Lily paintings. My granddaughter's name's Lily Monet, so I put the two together. But it was a Monet, and I did it like this, and I brought it over to her, and I was going to give her an Art 101 lesson. I'm going to show her what real art is and what trash is, you know, because that's what good grandpas do. They tell the truth. And I look at her, and I look at her painting. I can't tell if it's a sky, if it's an ocean, if it's a whale, if it's a bird, if it's a cow. I can't tell what it is. But Monet, even though it's, you know, a little abstract, I can tell what his is. So I say to her, crumple it back up, toss it over in the corner. I say, my goodness, you're going to be a great artist. And she grabbed my finger and took me back inside again. It was the coolest thing in the world. That's a Monet. Now here's something interesting about this Monet. That's one of his lilies. He did over 250 lily paintings. And he said, truth, that it took him 200 times before he wasn't embarrassed to show it to the public. 200 times. Do you get the illustration? There are trusts out there that call themselves trusts. They have words. They even have legal things inside the trust, but they're just brown on a piece of butcher paper. They don't have the legal effect you want them to have. To become a Monet-type trust, now please don't go home and look this up, because this is a metaphor. I made it up. It's just a metaphor. But a Monet trust takes years of experience. It takes years before the tax court, years before Social Security Administration, years before the regular district court, and it takes this, sad to say, years of having many, 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 many clients pass away to test each and every point of that trust. And then you're not embarrassed to bring it out in public. Now, me being stupid, I was never embarrassed, but the trust I have now is clearly a Monet as opposed to a Lily. That's how trusts work. That's how all legal work works. Just because somebody went to law school doesn't make them an expert. Just because somebody, any doctors here? I was going to just have you testify and say no. Just because you went to medical school doesn't make you an expert. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have experience. And sadly enough, you have to have a few failures in line. That's how you become an expert. That's the difference between a Monet and It's Lily.